You will spend your reign glancing over your shoulder and fearing the shadows. For when the time comes and your blood be slowly draining out, you will know exactly who fired the arrow that pierced your black heart.
Hello guys, this is Doronsmovies, and in this video I will be teaching you, or rather just giving you some tips and some guidance on how you can roleplay a troll in World of Warcraft. So in this video I will cover a few points, and most importantly I will give you a bit of an insight into the troll lore. I will give you some ideas on how to name your character, how to speak as a troll, what backstory you can choose, which personalities you can pick, and also which classes work the best, and you know, what is just general around the troll traditions. Alright, so let's start out with a quick look into their lore and their traditions. So the trolls are considered to be one of the oldest races on Azeroth, and were there even before the Titans visited the world. Like, the current time is kind of unknown, but I'm guessing it's around 15-20,000 years ago, so that's like even 10,000 years ago before the Great Sundering. So long ago, they all lived in the same community, but they split apart due to like these arguments and inequality and just minor arguments, I guess. No one really knows what happened there. Like, then a bunch of tribes were formed: the Gurubashi, the Drakari, the Amani, and also a bunch of these sub-tribes originated from those again. And although the Zandalari tribe is actually like the first known tribe to be there, like the first tribe where all the trolls originated from, and long ago they used to be really powerful and were one of the major forces on Azeroth, but after the Great Sundering they were split apart and then started getting a bit progressively weaker. The plague came in, like the disease and sickness and everything, and at one point they got desperate and even called on this evil Loa Hakar, and then there was like this civil war. Although I won't go too much into detail on that because I already made a video. It's called The Trolls and the Loa, and I will link it in the description, but pretty much it just explained what's going on with the trolls and their history and all of that, so you can check that out in the description. But trolls are generally considered evil and they're very vicious, and unlike the orcs that value honor more than anything, I mean, the trolls just couldn't care less. You know, sometimes they can be honorable, you know, using Vol'jin as an example, even Sen'jin, and a few others, but generally, the majority of the trolls would pretty much do anything to win, even if it means like backstabbing, betraying, and using all sorts of like these, well, dishonorable methods. Now, there are also a lot of cases of cannibalism amongst the trolls. I mean, they eat each other, they eat their enemies, and sometimes they even rip out the heart of their enemies once they kill them, and then they like eat the hearts, thinking that they will get their strength by doing that, even though that isn't proven or anything like that. And they also practice these dark rituals that require blood and living sacrifice, but it isn't all that bad as you may think it is. I mean, unlike the other races, they have this sort of a unique religion, and they worship these Loas. Now, Loas are kind of these spirits of the world, and as I said previously, I won't go too much into detail because I already explained that in like a 15-minute video, so you can check that out in the description if you want to get, you know, more details about that. But just for a quick summary here, a lot of Loa tribes, you know, worship different Loas, and by worshipping them they use these different rituals that they get power from, and they kind of worship these Loas, and then the Loas give them power in return. Although some Loas are evil and require these blood sacrifices that require like living sacrifices, like Hakar for example. Although like not all Loas are that drastic, even though some are pretty vicious. Now, you know, some Loas today just kind of require minor rituals that, you know, just show these tributes of respect. Okay, so looking a bit into their culture, trolls generally aren't sexist, and there isn't much of a difference between a male and a female, as both of them can be warriors, witch doctors, headhunters and all of that. Even though before that they couldn't, but I'm talking about like what's going on right now and with the Dark Spear. But there is actually quite a lot of racism when it comes to the trolls. Now, generally, they are pretty tolerable between themselves, but a lot of them distrust other races and just lay trust into their own tribe. Now I'm going to give you some insight in the Darkspear and their current relations with other allies. Now the only race they kind of value the most, and I'm just talking about the Darkspear here, not the other trolls, the evil ones, the Zandalari, the Drakari and all of that. I'm just giving you some perspective of the Darkspear tribe. So the only race they really value are the orcs, because they saved them from certain doom back in Broken Isles. And if you don't know, that's that mission from Warcraft 3, when you play with Troll and you save them from that sea witch, and pretty much then the trolls join the horde. And the trolls can actually be quite trustworthy allies if the other part, if the other ally has proved themselves well and has done a great service for the trolls. But other than that, they really don't care too much about others but themselves. Now, races they hate, or generally just dislike, would mostly be the Forsaken or the Blood Elves, even though their personality is kind of similar to the Forsaken. And now the reason they hate them though is because Forsaken were originally humans and the elves, and long ago they were at war with them, and things still haven't fully settled. I mean, some people don't hate them, but some do. I mean, trolls. Now, I don't think it's even worth mentioning that they hate most of the Alliance side, because, I mean, obviously if they don't like the Forsaken or the Blood Elves that are on their side, they obviously won't like the living humans, I guess. But even though the Night Elves from the Alliance were originally trolls, I guess they still hate them because their beliefs are different, and it's kind of the fact that they're responsible for the Great Sundering, which kind of ruined the troll empires. Just make life harder for them. Okay, so before we get into classes, I'm just going to give you some tips on how to name your characters and also how you can sort of speak like a troll. So, it is pretty obvious that the trolls are based off Jamaican accent, and that their accent is quite similar to Jamaican. So they use a lot of words, differently from the others. An example, instead of there, they would say there. I can't really pronounce it. I'm gonna write it on the screen. But an example, they don't say myself, they say meself. Or man, they say mon. I'm just going to write on the screen so you can see there. But it's just similar to the language, just a bit different. They also use a lot of apostrophes and make these pauses and make a few silent letters here and there. But that is about it. I will write it so you can see what I'm talking about. But I'm guessing you already know because you heard other trolls talk if you played World of Warcraft. So if you're looking to name your character, you can go about it in sort of two ways. Either culture-based or feature-based. Now, even though the culture-based is more common, as the feature-based part is most often used by the orcs. And by feature-based, I'm mostly talking, for example, Death Axe, Skull Splitter, and all of that stuff. But generally, they don't have surnames as humans do, for example. Instead, their names are kind of split in two parts. And in most cases, both parts have a certain meaning. So, for example, if someone's name is finished with Jin, it means he's the chieftain of the troll tribe. In example, you got Vol'jin, Senjin, Zul'jin. Now, Zul'jin is actually a great example, because literally when you translate his name, it means great leader, because Zul in troll means great and Jin means leader. Now, I can't really give you a guide on how to name your character exactly, as, we don't really know the troll language, or I don't know at least, except a few words that have been given to us by Blizzard. But prefixes like vol, kaz, hek would work great for males, while prefixes like so, she, mid would, work great with females. But I guess, you can use those random name generators on Google. Usually they give you some decent suggestions and you can kind of modify it with that and give it a certain meaning if you just kind of stick to the guidelines. Alright, so let's get into the most important part, and that is the personalities you can choose as a troll. So as I said previously, trolls tend to be kind of racist and also egoistical, and they think they're kind of the strongest around because they used to be very powerful long ago. And you can go about it in a few ways if you want to RP a troll. Now, I won't cover every single personality, as the whole point of RPing is kind of to make your own personality, for your own character. But I can give you some guidelines from where you can make your character. So, first would be kind of obvious, and that would be the Savage Troll. Now, these trolls would usually be Berserkers, Headhunters, Warriors, and a few other classes, but generally very vicious, lacking any sort of mercy, and would generally use any sort of a tactic in order to take advantage of their enemy, which implies that they aren't very honorable. Well, I guess this personality would give you a bit more space to work with, because generally they don't follow any guidelines or like laws or codes, like strict codes. so you kind of have your hands free to do what you want with them, but it will also be harder for them to find any allies if you're trying to RP this type of a troll. Alright, so the second personality would be the Mercenary. This one is kinda similar to the Savage one, but not as vicious or as careless. Now this type of a troll cares more about the tactics and won't just go all in into battle, but would rather use every chance he can get to backstab the enemy. Like RPing a Mercenary personality works great for trolls due to their like heartless nature, and even though trolls don't really care about money all that much like goblins do for example, they still wouldn't mind killing someone in cold blood if it benefits them. Now you can do quite interesting RP with this type of a troll, meaning you can join like assassin guilds, get like mercenary quests and all of that, so it can be really interesting if you plan on going for this type of RP style. Alright, so the third personality would be the tribal troll. Now this type of a troll is very loyal to their tribe, which is obvious, and as I mentioned, he is kind of racist like these types of trolls, which is common with a lot of trolls, but this type of a troll is specific because he wouldn't really trust anyone but his own, like he wants to stick to his own tribe. You can balance this personality out, of course. I mean, you can either go full racist and egoistical, or you can go slightly racist but still not trusting anyone, or just taking a long time to get someone's trust, or for someone to get your trust. So I guess it's a pretty interesting RP personality, as it works well with the troll nature. And the last one I'm going to cover would be the wise troll, and this one is a bit different from the usual, as usually the trolls would either be practicing voodoo or just relying mostly on magic instead of brute strength or weapons. So you can also work with this personality, but generally you can kind of RP this guy as a non-racist or just an elder that is kind of experienced and he knows what they've been through and all of that. So you can find it a bit easier to find the allies, and you know, you can trust someone if he proves himself worthy. Alright, so these were a few personalities, and as I said, these are kind of just guidelines that you can work from, and you can set up your troll from this, but if you want, you can make any sort of personality that you want. Although, honestly, I would kind of advise just sticking to the troll nature and their general personality if you're looking to just get into serious RP and not just ERP or anything like that. Alright, lastly, I'm going to be getting into some classes. So, in my opinion, trolls kind of have it the worst when it comes to classes, as most of the classes aren't exactly as they are in the lore. And for example, you have the priests, which aren't the same with every race. So in this video, as I said, I will go over a few classes and a few subclasses, but if you want, you can find out more and just look it up on the internet. There's a lot of resources for that, but in this video, I'll just cover a few of them. So first would obviously be the warrior. Now you can RP this class in a few ways, and first way to go about it would be the berserker. Now this type of warrior is kind of a bloodthirsty one, and he uses all of his strength in order to overpower the enemy, and in the heat of battle the only important thing for him is that his enemy is dead, and generally this is very common with the trolls, and Fury Spec would be great if you're trying to go for a berserker type of troll warrior. Now second choice you can go about it would be the horde warrior, and this one is kind of like an honorable darkspear warrior and would essentially be similar to an honorable orc. I mean, this type of troll follows tactics, he plans things out, he strategically attacks, he just doesn't get himself into battle, so it's like either death or victory. Like this guy kind of plans out what he's doing, and he can also be very skillful when it comes to weapons and fighting. He uses like swords, axes and all of that. Okay, the second class you can play would be the rogue, and as with the warrior, you can RP this troll in multiple ways. First way to go around it would be playing as an assassin type. You can go about it in a few ways, same with the warrior. You can either be a mercenary or just like a tribe assassin, and this type of a troll would pretty much kill whatever they are assigned without any mercy, and they really don't care too much about honor or any traditions, if they are being well paid or just getting something out of it. Now another way of going about it is either RPing a scout or just a weapon specialist, and I guess that would work well if you're trying to go for that horde warrior sort of a type, but you can also have some different moves instead of like the warrior thing. Right, so the third class would be the hunter. Now you can RP this class in many ways. First would be the headhunter, the scout, the tracker, or even a shadow hunter, as Vol'jin is for example, and hunters can be very skilled when it comes to nature, especially jungle or forest, and can either heavily rely on their pets or rely heavily on their ranged weapons and ranged weapon skills. But generally, if you're looking to RP a troll headhunter, this would be a great way to go about it. And lastly, I'm going to cover mages, shamans, druids, priests, and all of these spellcasters together. Now, all of them kind of share similar traits, and you can RP these guys as either shadow hunters, witch doctors, hexers, and a few other classes. And they work great as a lot of these troll classes share certain traits from each of these classes, like these classes we're given in World of Warcraft. So most of these can work great, but they kind of work in different ways. In example, you can either be a shaman or a hunter, shadow hunter, and you can just have different spells. And you can also be a shaman or a druid or a priest, witch doctor. It just depends kind of on the lore you worship and just the way you put up your entire backstory. Alright, and that is all I have for this guide. I plan on making more of these and on all of the other races soon, hopefully. And the next one will most likely be on the dwarves, and I plan on going a bit more into the alliance and then the horde, and hopefully one day I may be able to finish all of the races in World of Warcraft and kind of make it into a playlist. But anyways, thanks so much for taking your time to watch this video, and I hope you had enjoyed, or at least I hope it helped you out a bit with, setting up the troll, just getting a backstory and all of that. And don't forget to give me some feedback on what you'd like to see and what you think. So anyways, thanks so much for taking your time to watch this video, and see you next time.